Did you like that dramatic entrance? I know you did. So I'm going to be doing the Red Hot Chili Peppers today. You ask, I'm delivering. So it is going to be a lot today, so I just wanted to do a quick little overview just because they've been around since the 80s and there's a lot to cover. I have no idea how I'm going to do my makeup today, so bear with me. But just to give a little broad overview, the Red Hot Chili Peppers have sold over 80 million records worldwide. They're an alternative rock band. They hold 3 records for the Billboard Alternative Songs chart. One for the most #1 singles, they have 13. Most cumulative weeks at #1, which is 85 weeks. And the most top 10 songs, and they have 25. They have won 3 Grammys. They've been nominated for, I think 11, I can't remember. They are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And after watching some interviews, I came to realize that this is probably the most close-knit, family-like band that I've researched about. And before I did these segments, I also just love to research about bands in general. They have the most bromance, I guess you would say, out of any other band that I've ever seen. Their bond is absolutely crazy. Red Hot Chili Peppers, let's get into it. Our story today begins with Anthony Kiedis. At age 11, Kiedis moved to Los Angeles from Michigan to live with his father, who was a struggling actor. Kiedis decided that he too wanted to be a movie star, and he ended up scoring a few small parts on television shows, but never made it big as an actor. In a few interviews I watched, Kiedis opens up about living with his father, and I guess there was a lot of exposure to sex and drugs at a very young age. Kiedis says, quote, "My dad was very involved in chasing girls and having different girlfriends and very open about his sexual existence. I started dabbling with heroin when I was 14. That's the first time I tried it, and it was kind of by accident actually. I thought it was cocaine, and it was white, and it was sitting on a table, so I did it, and I got high and I liked it very much. It was a beautiful feeling." So as you can see, growing up, that can be very toxic. Also, what 14-year-old sees cocaine and thinks that's okay to do at the age of 14? Nonetheless, finding out that it's heroin later on and being like, oopsies, what? Sir, you are 14. You should not be dabbling in cocaine, okay? But now we have a tiny bit of background on Anthony Kiedis' childhood. I am gonna kind of whip through these because of the fact that the band itself goes through a lot. So as far as childhood, getting to know the actual people in the band, I am gonna kind of whip through those, sorry in advance, but this is a lot of information. All right, next I'm gonna talk to you about Michael Flee. So Flee spent his time going back and forth from the States to Australia due to a divorce between his parents. His dad lived in Australia due to his job, and Michael decided that he was going to live in the States with his mom and his stepfather. Michael was a great artist from a very young age. He was a natural at the trumpet and a beautiful jazz player, and at the time he really was only into jazz music. He really wasn't into anything else. Flee's stepfather was a musician and held jam sessions in the home quite often. When he did, he would sometimes let Michael play with them, and I guess all the guys felt the same way, that Michael had a great talent at a very young age. Although music was a way for the stepfather and stepson to bond, it wasn't all peachy keen in that household. His father was quote unquote an aggressive alcoholic, and the household was mostly toxic. Flee spoke about his troubling past, stating, quote, "I grew up terrified of my parents, particularly my father figures. It caused me a lot of trouble later in life," end quote. It wasn't until Flee was about 40 years old where he was sober and finally in the right mind, where he could forgive his parents for all the pain and trouble that they had caused in his life. Kiedis and Flee met at the age of 15. I guess Flee was being kind of a bully and had a kid in a headlock, and Kiedis came up to Flee and threatened to kick Flee's ass if he put another hand on him. So Flee backed off. That same year, they sat next to each other in driver's ed, and from there on, the rest is history. They just became besties. So then we're gonna talk a little bit about Hillel Slovak. Slovak was born in Israel to Jewish parents who were survivors of the Holocaust. They came to the States settling in New York, but then later moving to California. As a child, Slovak was a painter and he would paint with his mom often, so he was already into the arts at a young age. Hillel had one brother and his name was James, and things were actually very tight for the Hillel family, but at the age of 13, his mom and dad bought him his first guitar. In the VH1 Behind the Music interview, James, Hillel's brother, said, quote, "He would listen to music all day long. He would listen to Jimi Hendrix and Kiss. Those were his two favorite bands. And I would go to sleep around 10:30 and he would be playing his guitar in the room and I'd beg him to stop because I needed to go to sleep and he would play for another 2 hours," end quote. You know, blending black to red, I knew that was going to be a struggle, but I'm really having issues here. Okay, moving on. Mind you, they all met in high school, and at the time, Flea wasn't really into rock music. He was strictly into jazz, but Slovak was able to get him to cross to the dark side, and he introduced him to Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin, which got Flea really into rock music. Hillel had created this very different style playing the guitar. He added a lot of funk and groove into his music, which is still incorporated in the music that RHCP plays today. When they were 16, Hillel taught Flea how to play bass, and the band was formed between Hillel and Flea. At first, Anthony was not part of the band. He remained friends with both of them, but he actually decided to pursue college. But in 1983, Kiedis made an impulsive decision to join the guys on stage and rap a poem that he had written. The guys kind of just improvised and played along, and they called it Out in LA. They only had the one song, but was asked to come the next week, and within 1 week they were able to come back with a 3-song set. Due to this gig, the band was getting high recognition and bringing in high volume of spectators into these clubs. Flea does speak about the band in its younger years, stating, quote, "It was just wild. We were out of control. The band was out of control. Everything we did was over the top, and music was part of that," end quote. They quickly rose to fame in the underground club scene, and in 1983, they pulled a stunt that got them a lot of recognition, my friends. A lot. Why does this always happen? I feel like this eye is blending so nicely and this eye is just not. I don't know what to do. So I'm guessing you guys want to know about this crazy stunt, right? Yeah, okay. So they were playing at this place called the Kit Clap. I can't speak today, you guys. They were playing at this place called the Kit Kat Club. Try saying that 3 times fast, okay? I can't even say it once. Anyways, it was a strip club, and when they were asked to do an encore, the band didn't really know what to do. They didn't have like many songs in general, so they decided to be very bold instead. They came out for their encore in nothing but their socks. The tactic worked because within weeks, they were selling out larger clubs. Flea's mom spoke about the stunt. Mind you, I watched the interview. This woman seems like a sweet little proper like English woman. So I was like, oh geez, what is this cute little woman gonna say? And she says, quote, "I saw the first sock deal, the very first one, and it's one of the most amusing things I ever did see in my life." What? Man, if I pulled some stuff like that, my mom would be like, "How dare you disrespect me and this family?" I mean, I don't know. Maybe if my brother did that, she'd say it was amusing. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know. I was shocked that this cute little English woman, or Australian, sorry, she said that she thought it was amusing. So that's cool. So 6 months later, the Red Hot Chili Peppers scored a record deal with EMI America Records, and the band released 2 albums. The first was self-titled, and the second was called Freaky Styly. Mainstream radio was still ignoring the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but college radio and MTV were loving the RHCP. That kind of rhymed. The critics were kind of split on the band. Half of them loved them and thought that they were kind of like a fresh new sound, and the other half kind of thought that this was going to be one of those bands that was together for maybe 2 years and then broke up and the music was going to go nowhere, especially because they had a lot of, you know, silly tactics. They were very open about their sexuality, and they also had a lot of goofy tendencies on stage. In 1987, the band releases their third album called The Uplift Mofo Party Plan, and was outselling both previous records while drawing in big crowds for their concerts and selling out shows. In 1988, the band traveled to Europe for a tour, and Hillel became sick from withdrawals. Hillel was going through being addicted to heroin. So here we are talking about addiction again, you guys. I think I'm gonna change the name of this to addiction in makeup, because it seems like that is what we talk about every week. So a roadie ends up reaching out to James. Remember James? He's Hillel's brother. And basically let him know that something was going on and that Hillel had a real issue with drugs. Obviously, like any sibling, they didn't want to believe it at first. And James reaches out to Hillel and kind of lets him know that he's there for him and, you know, that he needs to get sober. While touring, both Kiedis and Hillel were working together to stay clean. So Kiedis also had a huge heroin issue. And I guess for Kiedis, it started off as just kind of being like a recreational thing, like, oh, I'm just gonna do it, you know, at this party, whatever. To him anyways, it seemed like he kind of had a control on it, but when he too went on tour, he realized he doesn't really have a control on this, and he also needs to do something about it. So him and Hillel both got stone cold sober together throughout the whole tour. In a journal, Hillel speaks about getting sober and how serious he was about it, writing, quote, "Fuck drugs. Music is my destiny. Even though I don't necessarily feel it now, I know soon this experience will only make me stronger," end quote. Although Slovak and Kiedis did great being sober while being a team on tour, when coming home, the guys struggled to stay clean. The guys went their separate ways for 3 weeks to relax and just take a break from being on the road, and both Hillel and Kiedis relapsed, which also goes to show you how much of a support system they were for each other. On Monday, June 27th, the police were called to do a wellness check on Hillel. Nobody was able to get a hold of him for a couple days, so the police were called to his apartment to do a wellness check, where they found Hillel lifeless in his apartment and unfortunately died due to a drug overdose. They approximated Hillel had died about 2 days prior to the wellness check. So this poor man died alone in his apartment and nobody found him for 2 days, which that's no one's fault. I mean, people were calling him and trying to check up on him, and I think if it were me, I mean, actually, no, I'm a crime junkie, but I feel like that's kind of a normal thing to do is wait a couple days because you don't want to seem crazy. But yeah, it made me really sad learning about this case, and his brother described it best. Heroin is like Russian roulette. You never know if you're gonna die. So for you to even take that chance, like, you know, you could die. And he explained that to his brother, and unfortunately, his brother had called him right before he shot up the heroin and told his brother for the very last time that he loved him. So at least to some degree he got that closure, but also, I mean, that's terrible, and I feel really bad for James and the rest of Hillel's family. And, you know, my prayers goes out to them. Anthony Kiedis speaks about the shocking news, saying, quote, "I did not accept the news. I was very much under the influence when I got it. I came back after a few days after being at my house, and my girlfriend told me, and I just refused to accept it," end quote. After Kiedis got the news, he left for a retreat in Mexico, trying to get sober, but I guess he just wasn't able to do it. and after 10 days, he later returned to LA to check into a rehab. Jack Slovak, who was the drummer at the time for the Red Hot Chili Peppers, was just so distraught over everything that he decided that he just needed to leave the Peppers, and it wasn't something that he could go on doing. Flea and Kiedis decided the Red Hot Chili Peppers had so much more to offer and decided that they were going to keep the band going. They were also still best friends, so nothing really changed between them. They just knew that their third best friend would no longer be with them to be making music. The guys decided to reach out to John Frusciante, who was only 18 at the time, to join the band, and held auditions for a drummer where Chad Smith was one of the last to audition, but was an instant connection with raw talent that was undeniable. So quickly about Chad Smith. Chad Smith grew up in a blue-collar home and stayed mostly dry while touring. He lightly dabbled in marijuana and the occasional beer, but other than that, he was able to stay clear of any hard drugs. In 1989, the band released its fourth album called Mother's Milk, and this was their first album to go gold. The album was giving the band a lot more growth and popularity, with the song Knock Me Down kept the album on the American charts for over 8 months. In 91, their fifth album was released. So I really want to try something different with my eyeliner this time, you guys, but it's gonna take some work, okay? So bear with me, please. So in 91, their fifth album was produced by Rick Rubin, Blood Sugar Magic, and at the time, Rick Rubin had worked with other artists like Beastie Boys and had never produced for a rock band like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. While working on lyrics, Rick found a poem in Anthony's journal and saw how raw and emotional it was. He pushed Anthony to pursue this poem and turn it into a song. Kiedis shared his song with the guys and was a little fearful, thinking that they would kind of, I don't know, make fun of him or maybe not be so understanding of his lyrics because they just were so emotional. The guys right away understood the emotion and felt like the song was absolutely beautiful and picked up their instruments and started working right away. The song would now be known as Under the Bridge. After the album, the band started an American tour and was selling out stadiums. Also, I'm gonna finish this eyeliner off camera. I'm really sorry that I have to do this every time. Okay, I'm not even gonna lie, guys, it was really hard. I need some pumpkin coffee after that one. So the band was known to get crowds to take off their shirts and kind of like swing them around at concerts. They had a different kind of control over the crowd than other bands, so which made them also so different in that time. In 1991, John Frusciante, remember this is the new guitarist, he had a really hard time dealing with the fame that the Red Hot Chili Peppers got. He was kind of just happier playing, you know, small venues and underground stuff, and he had a really hard time dealing with the band's success. And before y'all judge John Frusciante, okay, he was 21 at the time. Remember, he's a baby. He's very young. And, you know, watching interviews and stuff, he kind of was always a different person. He didn't seem like the type that wanted fame. You know, he was just happy being in a band and playing music and being smaller. John also felt very distanced from the group, and he had a hard time connecting with the guys. Again, he is a baby, he's only 21, and I think that had a lot to do with it. So due to not being able to really connect with the guys and stuff, he kind of just stopped caring about the band as a whole. In 1972, just hours before the band was supposed to go on, John Frusciante kind of called it quits and was like, you know what, quitting the band, peace. But the guys were actually able to convince him to do that show, but after the show the next morning, he packed up his things and decided he was no longer part of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. The band quickly replaced Frusciante with Eric Marshall, and they did not stop climbing the ladder of success. But back in LA, Frusciante had gone down a dark hole Kiedis had known all too well. A Dutch TV crew making a RHCP documentary wanted to do an interview with Frusciante, and they discovered John in a really bad way, being addicted to heroin. While doing the interview for the film, Frusciante spoke about heroin, saying, quote, "It's a way of making sure you stay in touch with the beauty instead of letting the ugliness of the world corrupt your soul." So meanwhile, Frusciante is going through his downward spiral. Half the boys in the band get arrested while doing a show for MTV's like Spring Break. I guess they grabbed a girl in the crowd and sexually harassed her. Flea picked her up over his shoulders while Smith pulled her swimsuit aside and smacked her ass. Then Flea got on top of this poor girl and pretended to indulge in vulgar acts. Smith was charged with battery. Flea was charged with battery, disorderly conduct, and solicitation to commit an unnatural lascivious act. With Frusciante unable to return to the band due to drugs and disconnection from the guys, Eric Marshall was replaced with Dave Navarro in September of 1993, which, by the way, I'm obsessed with Dave Navarro. I love him. I actually kind of learned about Dave Navarro. I've always known of Jane's Addiction, which is one of the bands that he founded, and I love that band, but like I also became kind of obsessed with him after seeing him on Ink Master. So he is a judge on Ink Master. I'm sorry I'm getting off topic, but just wanted to throw that out there really quick. I do love tattoos, hence like the finger tattoos. I do have other tattoos on my body moving forward. It took the band over a year to write the album One Hot Minute. Get it? Took them 1 hot minute to write the album. Are you inspired yet? From all the interviews I watched, it seemed that it was at nobody's fault of their own. It was just one of those things that Dave Navarro had come from a different, musical background. So trying to get those, funk beats, that certain sound that you want, and you have an artist that, maybe had never done a sound like that, I guess it can be hard. And I did see that Flea did say something about Dave Navarro stating that he's a great artist. It wasn't working out. They were from two totally separate music backgrounds, and they were just having a really hard time connecting at, like I said, nobody's fault of their own. And the band felt like there was something missing without John, knowing they wanted that family-like feeling back. I also want to mention that even though they felt like something was missing with Dave Navarro being part of the band and John not being part of the band, they did still win a Grammy for Best Hard Rock Performance for the song Give It Away, which is that song that I was kind of jamming to when I first, walked in. So that was in 1993. Flea spoke about Frusciante's time apart from the band, stating, quote, "I stayed in touch with him the whole time, and it was difficult to be around him. I just thought he was going to die. I mean, I was sure John was going to die," end quote. In the fall of 1988, John was persuaded by friends to join rehab. John spoke about his addiction, stating, quote, "That time of my life had ran its course, and I knew that it was time for a new chapter to begin," end quote. After getting out of rehab, John was delighted to join the band again. And in 1999, the Peppers released their 7th album, Californication. The album sold 30 million copies worldwide. With the release of the album, they went on a world tour, and they were quick to start on another album as soon as they got home from the tour. In 2002, the album By the Way was released, and the album led to an 18-month world tour, a concert DVD, and the band's first live album. In 2006, the Chili Peppers released their 9th album, Stadium Arcadium. The album won 2 Grammys. The first one for Best Rock Performance by a Duo Group with Vocal for Danny California, and the Best Rock Album for the whole album, Stadium Arcadium. It's really hard to do my lips while talking, guys. Hold on. In July 2009, Frusciante left the Chili Peppers yet again, and no announcement was made until December of 2009. Frusciante had wrote on his MySpace page that there was no ill feelings between him and the band and his departure, but he just wanted to work on his solo stuff.
We interrupt this program for an important news announcement.
Okay, really quickly, you guys, I have to stray out the video and the story for just like 2 seconds. I need to give a shout out to Estate Cosmetics for sending me a highlighter. I broke my highlighter and they were so nice. I had not even gotten to use it yet, and I posted it up on Instagram stating, you know, I broke my highlighter before I could even use it. Real sad face. And they were like, send us a confirmation number and we'll send you a brand new one. And I was like, what? It's not even your guys' fault. But they still sent me one. And yeah, so that's what I'm using for my highlight today. I just wanted to give them a quick shout out. Please support them. It was so nice of them to send me a new one. They didn't have to do that. They had me send them a picture of my broken one and then my confirmation number, and they just sent me a new one. Please don't scam them. Please don't do that. I'm not saying that they're just gonna send you a new one. I'm saying that their customer support was absolutely amazing and I want to support them. So please support them. Their highlighters are not even expensive. This was $10. Their line is extremely affordable. I used one of their palettes today. I used the BYEEE Sarian palette for this beautiful red creation. So yeah, okay, back to the story. In October of that same year, 2009, the Chili Peppers entered the studio to begin writing their 10th studio album, with Klinghoffer replacing Frusciante. In 2011, the album releases the album I'm With You, and in April of 2012, the band was induced into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In 2014, the band joined Bruno Mars on stage at the Super Bowl as performers for the halftime show. The Getaway album was released in June of 2016 and included the #1 single, Dark Necessities. In December of 2017, the band headlined the Band Together benefit concert. This concert was a relief benefit from the victims of the California fire, which I'm pretty sure 2 of the bandmates actually did receive some damage to their homes as well. So obviously this meant a lot to them as well to do this benefit. February of 2019, they performed Dark Necessities with rapper Post Malone with the 61st Annual Grammy Awards. They also appeared in Post Malone's music video, Wow. On November 2nd of 2019, the Chili Peppers performed a charity event at Silver Lake Conservatory of Music in Los Angeles. It was their final show with Klinghoffer, and in January of 2020, the band announces Frusciante is coming back to the Peppers. The band's first full show with Frusciante were scheduled for festivals this May, but were canceled due to COVID-19. So that's great. So yeah, like I said, this band is, you know, super tight-knit and had a very family-like bond. Kiedis talks about Flea saying, quote, "Flea and I were made to affect each other. We're almost too close and even too much of one and the same person to talk sometimes. And when Flea cries, I cry. And when Flea smiles, he makes me smile," end quote. So I loved researching this band. Thank you so much for recommending it to me to do. I really appreciate it. And it was a lot of information, and there's a lot more about the band that I didn't even uncover today just because it is a lot. Like I said, they've been around since the 80s. So there's a lot that I didn't get to cover today, and I apologize for that. But I hope this was a good overview of the band, and I hope to see you guys next Sunday. So thank you for getting ready with me today. I hope this was a good start off to your week. Well, thank you again for all the support. Bye.